In part 3, we have some who simply don't believe a word of what King says. We next include others who have similar stories, who have experiences which lead credence to King's claims. Some of these people have alarming stories, including the death of aliens and the release of captured humans in underground bases involving US military personnel. Another interview is with the late Ron Adams, who dealt with the Greys directly and who we believe was ultimately killed by them. We then talk to Professor John, the man in the pub, who gives a weird description of activity at a base mentioned by King as being involved in aliens. We include Matt Todd, who claims to have accessed a base similar to what King talks about, released dozens of abductees and actually battles with 4 ETs and kills all 4 of them.
It's just like this really eerie calm here. It's almost unreal.
Well, Lisa, what do you think is going on here? This is near RAF Peasemore, the underground alien facility,
Something
alleged.
horrible. I mean, nobody can confirm, you know, or whatever, or deny what Barry's saying is going on and what I was told was going on, but something nasty is happening.
Right beside RAF Welford.
It's horrible. It's just, there's a feeling of, when we first started coming towards the base, I started getting a really pounding headache. And right by it, the headache is really bad. I had to shut my eyes for a while, and then getting further away from it, it goes away again. It's totally weird here. It's like deathly quiet and totally weird.
Am I right at the corner of Welford Base?
Yeah, and I don't think this is the Peasemore base. But I do think it's connected to it, and I think this might be what Barry was talking about when he said that people are so interested, aren't they? When he said that you get into it via another base. But I was told on the board that it began with W, and Barry didn't confirm or whatever about that. Weird. But I don't think this is the main part of the complex. I think it's up there somewhere, going up towards the Leckhampstead, around there, Chadwellworth.
Well, we go there before we get run over.
I think we better have. Totally weird. I didn't get vibes at Bentwaters, not like this, but definitely here. Something going on.
No. My intention is not to sort of like upset anybody. I mean, I would. As
I know. Yeah, I know.
If your wife now had been there at the time, I would have said, well, how credible does this sound?
She would have been brought in anyway. She would have been...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how credible would it sound to your ex-wife? I mean, would she have been able to have substantiated some of the
She could have corroborated the comings and goings of all the visitors. I
yes.
mean, you know,
that's what I was really after, because I was thinking that would help your story.
Unfortunately, how shall I put it? Well, Sonia. She, unbeknownst to me when I married her, was a paranoid schizophrenic. She had severe psychological problems. And of course all the comings and goings and all the business during '79 didn't exactly help. So I was faced with the stress of the project plus the stress of, because she went downhill rapidly, you know, part and parcel of her illness. That it was constant visits to a special clinic, which was in Swindon. So yeah, I looked at it that I was compounding things, and I was told afterwards it had nothing to do really with the fact of what was happening to me and my side of things. She would have gone downhill anyway. I just gave a gentle push.
Yeah.
Very sore point, that first marriage. It's one of those taboo subjects. You know, I came away very badly from that.
Did she get better afterwards? I mean, did she?
I haven't heard from anyone over there in how many years? The divorce was in '82, so that's about the last time. And I've got a boy aged 16. I haven't seen since he was 10 months old.
Oh no.
Because of the social services deliberately withheld his address, his whereabouts, her whereabouts. You know, I weren't allowed to to even know where he was. So, oh, yeah, past history, and that's part of people tend to, yeah.
I mean, the one thing that has been lacking, I think, really in all of this is firm evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Miles tells me that you sort of had a...
There were certain
a rethink.
documentation,
Mm.
photographs, maps, sketches,
Mm.
but we've been over that several times.
Yeah. You say you can't get access to these
It's
now.
impossible. Now that we've been withdrawn from the area, so there's no chance I can get them whatsoever.
Mm.
But
There was talk at one point that you were going to be able to in time, though.
there was talk of that, but that has now been denied me totally. There's no way I can get that sort of evidence. Unless at some stage they feel it's in their interest to say, well, okay, now perhaps would be a time to, perhaps on a watered down level, perhaps that one and that one, very innocuous sort of stuff first. I really can't say. It's all out of my hands, totally.
Is this stuff still at the solicitors?
No.
Was it ever at the solicitors, or was that just a
Oh, it
front?
was,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, no, that's...
Mm.
But remove materials, I mean, obviously I'm not going to know where
Mm.
materials are from.
They took them then.
Mm.
They took them away, right? When was that? I think you mentioned in the voice. I can't remember offhand.
Yeah, November was one attempt.
Yeah.
They
Unsuccessful.
were unsuccessful. There have been 2 attempts altogether.
This solicitor then, whoever he is, would be able to say that you had given him documents and people had come
I
in.
wouldn't have thought so, no.
He wouldn't be able to say.
I don't think so.
What? Not that he wouldn't say, or he couldn't say.
I think they were probably told at the time, because they were in effect contravening the Official Secrets Act by having those materials on their premises.
Mm.
They don't want to hold themselves wide open for prosecution by the CPS, so they'd totally disown any knowledge of me, materials, anyone picking up any sort of materials or whatever. I think that's the case of that didn't exist anymore.
Right. So this person, even under sort of controlled conditions, wouldn't be prepared to make a statement.
I wouldn't think so. Even though they looked a decent bunch of solicitors, I don't think they'd actually stick the necks out for me, no.
Have you discussed it with them? Do you think they would?
Other than asking what the legal side of things being, the confidentiality side, and him telling me, point out, well, it was such and such, except under this circumstance because it involves contravening materials, and they don't want a hefty fine, they don't want to get prosecuted, so they will probably turn around, disown me, don't know anything about me, they don't know anything about any materials, they certainly wouldn't have done this, they certainly wouldn't have acted in such a way in the first place, so they're going to cover their tracks, which is perhaps only right. I mean, I would do the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking for any area whatsoever, no matter how small, that we
Concrete proof,
we can get.
Well, everyone's been asking for.
Yeah.
Under these, it's crikey.
Because even though, I mean, the solicitor is going to be somebody who, maybe doesn't want to get into trouble, then again, he may be of a similar mind to like me or you or Chris or Miles, in so much as he'll say, well, sod the government, I don't care about this secrecy. No, I had these documents. No, I'm prepared to talk. I mean, we're in a situation where we don't know what this guy is like. Do you say he won't, or you're not really
I
sure?
would say 99%. I'm 99% sure he wouldn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Just by mentioning the fact that, you perhaps had on security certain documents for a certain party, and these were taken back by. I don't think he'd even admit to that. As I said, that's why I try to explain the documents. Well, a damn awkward situation. I mean, where even such as someone backing me up. I said, come on, you had those documents on your premises. You had this sort of arrangement where I'd be the only one who could actually phone in, say who I was. I'm coming to collect the documents. No one else could. I was heavily relying on that. I'm heavily relying on someone from DI8 to come forward at some stage. I mean, they keep promising. Every time Miles mentions, what about them doing this, what them doing that? I'm obviously putting that to them. Well, can't one of you? We've seen it. We've seen people. They've had their faces blacked out. They've changed their voice. They've done this or that. Your identity's totally protected. Why can't one of yous come forward and back me up? I'm taking the whole lot. I'm taking the stick. I'm taking the ridicule. I'm taking the whole lot. How about someone from your end coming and saying, well, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that, even in a disguised way? But no. So I'm left out on the limb. I'm carrying the can, and they're just seeing how things go.
Mm. You've got some sort of like ID or security badge, which I think you photocopied and put in the voice. I mean, is this an official badge? Is this a real badge?
Well, it's what they issue people with. I mean,
and it is the one that you were issued with at Peasmore.
The 4 British and the Canadian ones were issued with that. The American ones were totally different.
Yeah. Have you still got that?
Oh no, you don't. There's no souvenirs.
I thought you had that. I thought you'd shown it to people.
Not that badge, no, because that was part and parcel of the uniform.
That's the one you've actually put the photocopy in here.
That's
the real badge.
That's the actual security enforcement. Yeah, but as I say,
Right.
only the British, the 2 Canadians had those. The Americans had a totally different badge altogether.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing, you know, security, blah blah blah, but worded slightly different.
Yeah.
But well, no, I mean, crikey, I would like to have got the black box and all the other bits and pieces out there.
What were the circumstances surrounding you taking a photocopy of that badge?
Done for me by way of a cover. Now, again, because people wanting proof in various ways. So people who are also dangling their toes in the water, thinking, well, we can only go so far. So what can we provide him with that's not going to place us in too much danger, but will be sufficient to say, well, look, this is this and this is that. So certain people, I'm not prepared to say who, actually helped with the badge.
No, it's not on here. That's just something that was passed to me. I haven't got it here, but I mean that I definitely
well,
remember
that
somebody
is
saying.
most intriguing. I've actually
You've had that badge. Now, I got to say that they said that this badge that you showed them. I mean, I can get back to who it was, and if you want, I'll say who it was. I'll ask them. I'll say, Liam, look, Barry's asking, can I say that you said that you know he's shown you the badge, you know, so you can, you know, say, well, was it you or not? Are the memories working correctly? But one of the things they said was that it looked like a phony badge as well.
Well, firstly,
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, no, that's okay. But
I haven't seen
really
this
like
badge.
to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously,
if you haven't got it here, I mean, I'm not to know. But yeah.
no, I've got no badge.
Yeah.
All I've got is a photostat copy, which is, as I say, everyone's got.
Right.
But that's interesting.
What would you say to the point that you've got to be some sort of evidence to there being an underground facility at Peasmore? I know you say
Depends on what sort of evidence. Now, this is where I'm going to come back, because, okay, I know the damn place is there. So many other people know the damn place is there. Now, this is the only thing that really bugs me, because I can't physically go over there and say, well, look, right, let's dig 200 foot down and the damn thing's just down there. Now, you've obviously got to have physical entrances or access points. Now, I've already highlighted where these access points are. You've got breather units, or the filter systems, which are going to be scattered around the area where the base itself is. Now, because for several reasons I can't personally get over to Berkshire and actually scout around myself, I've actually told people, what, you've been given the general location of the place, scout around yourself. Even if you have to go into farm buildings, I mean, I haven't the faintest idea what's there. I mean, other than describing the pub that I do recall on a number of occasions going to, and Miles kept saying, there's no pub there, and I was really getting fed up. He couldn't find the pub, and I knew it was there.
And then one day we found it. So.
But you know, as for the filtration units, they could even be in innocuous places like farm buildings. I really wouldn't know. I mean, this is where I come back very hard and think, well, okay, I'm asking you to swallow a lot here, but at the same time, what we're getting from the States is this and more. And people are accepting it, you know, blindly. No problem. I mean, like,
some people are accepting it.
Okay, some people are, but a hell of a lot are just saying, well, oh, okay, let's try and find Dulcie. Now, I mean, what proof has anyone got that Dulcie exists?
Well, the base actually exists, but it's just whether level 13 exists, isn't it?
Well, really, I've never seen any proof whatsoever that Dulcie exists. I mean, just me personally.
Right, yeah.
Okay, if others have seen some sort of evidence, fair enough. I personally haven't. So when I'm trying to get across there on what the hell can I do, what evidence can I provide anyone to prove the damn place exists?
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. I'm up against a brick wall every time. I'm down a dark alley. I can't prove anything whatsoever. Perhaps this is how it's supposed to be. I can't prove a damn thing.
Well, if the message was supposed to get out to people, but it would, you know, they didn't want you to prove your point. They just wanted the message to get out, so that one day they'd find out what you're saying is right. I mean, that's one feasible explanation. But I mean, there's got to be something from your own point of view.
Yeah, but as I'm not the only one who's coming forward with this,
Yeah.
I mean, there are a number of other, well, ex-guinea pigs, let's use that term,
Yeah.
because that's the one they keep using.
Like who? I haven't heard anybody.
Well, people are slowly but surely coming forward saying they've been abducted, but not by the aliens. They've been abducted by what seems to be military personnel. They're describing certain locations which could well tie in with Peasmore. The more people come forward and actually, because you've got this smoke screen cover of an alien abduction, go through that deeper regression, and you're going to come out with the military ones.
Do you have any particular names of anyone?
I don't go out and
that?
about doing abduction investigations anymore. So.
But you think there are these people who are saying that?
I know there are. Yeah.
But you can't put your finger on any
No.
of them.
No. I think all the cases that are perhaps known, if people go into those cases again and look a bit deeper, they might just be surprised
Yeah.
how many of those are actual smokescreen alien abductions, and they're really something quite different. The military are up to a very high percentage of abductions in this country alone, so yeah. People just got to look,
Right.
and maybe there's no aliens at all. Who knows?
Right. So you can't show us your badge. You can't get down the solicitors and get the stuff because that's gone. But you carry something around with you all the time that is a form of proof.
Oh, yeah, the 2 implants.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to be very clever. We've got a knife, we'll dig them out.
Yeah, but you've got them,
Mm.
and they're still there.
Yeah.
And you consider them, you know, sort of detectable in some fashion. You know they're inside you.
Detectable in some fashion. This is where we come up again with another. Right.
Do you think they could be found, either through surgery, X-ray?
Well, not straight X-rays, because no, not the way they place them. Now, the one in the sternum is placed just behind the bone, so an
Yeah.
ordinary X-ray wouldn't find that one anyway.
Right. Have you tried?
Oh no. Well, I've had a number of chest X-rays done when this was playing up.
Yeah.
But again, this is where we're going to get. Again, this sounds very silly to a lot of people. Now, the survey database.
Yeah.
They cover all regional hospitals. Everything that guinea pigs go to hospital for, that's going to eventually find its way on that database.
Mm.
So I could go to hospital, some complaint, like a set of X-rays taken. Yeah, sure, no problem. Get these taken. Even if they did detect something, I'm sure on those notes there's going to be something that, well, no, look, see, no problem there at all.
Mm.
That's the way it works.
Do you know where it is specifically? We're not talking about, we'll take a general X-ray of the body, we're talking about a very
Behind
specific...
the bone and sternum, yeah.
You know where that is, a
Yeah.
very close detailed X-ray, CAT scan,
CAT scan or MRI,
MRI.
yeah, that may pick it up.
you know,
yeah.
might pick it up. Have you ever considered it?
I couldn't afford it.
If it was arranged, would you go for it?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah?
But then again, this is where we're going to come to this same junction where, what if it's not picked up? Does that immediately, oh, the whole lot's rubbish, couldn't find the implant. There we go.
Well,
This
it's not
is
going to
it.
help things.
It's not going to help, but
Yeah.
surely it's not going to hinder things either. Because again, I've spent many sleepless nights wrangling over this, thinking, well, they keep saying that certain things are not detectable. I think, well, there's nothing surely in this world that suddenly can disappear,
Mm.
unless it's, so far advanced, the technology is so far advanced, they can suddenly just switch it on and off, so you can't see it.
Mm.
I thought, that's clever, because that's what they're going to say.
Mm.
I'm not saying it, but just supposing did go for an MRI or a CAT scan, boom, nothing there. Thanks, lads. Did this, did that, couldn't find a bloody thing. Oh, that's all right. We told you. It can be switched off. You wouldn't see it. Where the hell does that leave me?
If.
Stuck right in the middle again, with all this information, more information yet to come,
Mm.
and yet there's all the negatives being thrown back. Well, I'm pushing out this, and it's all come back. Well, you've got no proof. Got no proof.
it seems like the only road to take to give something that's going to make people believe it, because it's an interesting story, but it remains at the level of a story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
agreed,
it's,
yeah.
I mean, it may well gather momentum. It may well become a story which people will believe simply because they're easy believers. But there are going to be people out there who want levels
Well,
of
I should
proof.
imagine there's quite a few out there that demand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's cut him up. Let's have a quick look inside him. Just you never know.
Well, it's not that painful. I mean, an X-ray and an MRI and a CAT scan. I mean, they could be easily arranged, and it would. I mean, 50-50. You don't know that that's not going to be able to be detected, and if it is going to be able to be detected, if it's 50-50, are you prepared to play the odds to find out whether or
I
not
don't
you
mind one
can?
way or another. Yeah.
Because you can prove your case that way,
And then
or
again,
you're still in the same situation. You don't lose.
Yeah.
I don't think you lose, but I think
Well,
you.
I don't know, because as I say, that one initiates cardiac arrest, which they've proven is something I've got to be very wary of, because they did it in May of 1980. They really crippled me up in London with my dad. All of a sudden, woof, bang, rushing in St Bart's, major heart attack, blah 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 blah, slight compression of the side of the chest because they paid it too high. Now, they at any time can just click that switch again, bang, oh dear, is that another one? But to anyone, it's just an ordinary heart attack. Oh well, it's 44, poor old sod.
Well, I think if that happened, I think there'd be a few ufologists asking,
But would they? That's what's
Where?
been keeping me awake for quite a few nights. Would people start asking these questions?
well, I think.
Would they just go to my GP and say, well, he did have a history of angina, I'm afraid. He had a heart attack in 1980. He's had angina ever since. The poor old sod was going to get it one way or another anyway. So just a normal heart attack can prove otherwise.
It's a bit morbid, and it's going off the point. I mean, do you really think that that's going to happen?
They've warned me many times that if I overstep the mark, they'll certainly pull the plug. Oh yes, so I'm worried about that. Yeah. I've got a family to think about. Yeah.
So, but you don't think that you'd mind doing it anyway, trying it for the sake of it?
For the sake of it, I wouldn't mind trying anything.
Right.
You tried truth serum, polygraph, the whole lot. I mean, that I don't care.
You don't mind trying it?
No.
Okay. Well, that's the important thing. I don't think they'll pull the plug on you. I've got a funny feeling they won't pull the plug on you.
Well, that's probably
I think
the
it'd
main
prove your
reason
point,
is,
really, wouldn't it?
Well, yes and no. Yeah, it would be a bit too late for me to argue the point, wouldn't it?
Unfortunately, perhaps, yeah.
You know, is that abductions don't occur on a one-off basis. Practically every abductee that I've met or read about has had multiple abductions through their life.
Since childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Where does the survey come in?
Which would seem, fair enough, which would seem like a big waste of resources. I mean, you would have to ask yourself why these people are being taken up against their will time and time again for this microchip that needs to be implanted one time, and yet others who are eventually going to be got to are left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, economically, that is a very
It does
big
sound
waste of
totally
resource
stupid,
and
yeah, I
time.
must admit. Well, again, I'm not saying that every abduction is military. As I said, I gave a rough ratio of 65 military, 35 alien. These are the figures I'm given, so if I'm given, I've got to give them out.
So do you believe that the military abductions are occurring as a
more-
consequence of the alien abductions?
I'm certain that the military abductions are in greater numbers than alien abductions. Now, we have to bracket that word alien. As for these, because most abductees are abducted throughout their lives, and you can go back to their parents, grandparents. Yeah, so you can literally, if you really wanted to, go back generations, although I haven't seen any concrete proof of that. It would seem initially on the surface, a total waste of time. I can only go by what I'm told is the overall picture. I can only go by what I'm told to give out as a main reason of why the military are abducting people. They're using the aliens as a smoke screen themselves. Because you'd never think of your own government going around snatching people from their beds or from their cars, doing all manner of medical procedures on them, taking over, or sperm or whatever, microchipping them, banging them back to where they were picked up, and that's it. Right, we'll be back in a couple of years' time and go through the whole procedure again. It's easier to let people think that nasty aliens from somewhere have come and done this to them. I mean, one case in mind, because I was sent the book and the video, is Leah Haley over in the States.
Yeah.
Definite military connection of some sort. I mean, what that woman must have gone through. I mean, it's like a horror story, isn't it?
She's very badly affected.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't want to use that to prove my point that military are involved, but it just seems you do hear more and more and more stories of people being abducted, and during the course of whether it's conscious recall or regression or whatever other method is used to get the data from them, they see military personnel on board with these supposed aliens. So, as I said in the kitchen, there's either this hand-in-hand agreement they've got, military working with the aliens, or it's a blooming military abduction, full stop. Right, if I can switch to
Yes,
what I was
fire away.
saying before. Now let's turn the whole thing around, as obviously I've had to in great detail over the years. Yes, okay, most people are going to look at this and say, pure disinformation. Then surely behind that assumption they'd have a load of questions, or they should at least if they're halfway intelligent. Why is this person putting out this disinformation? If there's someone behind him, who are they? What's the reason? What's the purpose of this disinformation? Again, I'm not so high profile these days. I was back in the 70s. So surely most people think, well, why is this person... Because if it is disinformation and someone can prove it's disinformation, I'm going to totally ruin any credibility I might have within the UFO community. Because I'm still known by some people, they can trace, oh, right, I read books and reports about you back in the 70s. So I'm going to throw all that away on the premise of a really outlandish story. And I can't come up with any concrete proof, any part of this story, so it's just basing it on stuff I'm putting out in documents. So, as I said, I'm trying to look at it from everyone else's point of view. Am I going to totally dash any credibility I've got left within ufology? And if it is disinformation, who's behind it and for what purpose? Why? It's the big why. Why am I doing this if it's disinformation? What have I got to gain? Bugger all. I've got a hell of a lot to lose. As I said, I may not be so well known now as I used to be in the 70s, but I'd lose even that. So what would be the point in me coming out with this if there wasn't something behind it?
The Gurdjieff movement. Gurdjieff was a Greek-Russian mystic, long since dead, and his philosophy was that we are all asleep. We are all robots taken over by the autonomous nervous system and everything else, etc. And his aim was to wake people up, to make them aware, which I suppose is the end result of most magical rituals anyway, is to raise one's awareness, etc. Yeah.
So what about Madame Blavatsky and the Theosophical
Society.
And Hitler and all that kind of
she
stuff?
claimed, the Theosophical Society certainly claimed to be in touch with what they call the secret masters, which again could be extraterrestrials. I've got a Theosophical book here that contains a portrait of, this is the one I was looking for. This one. Unfortunately it's in German, but it's Madame Blavatsky's book, and it's got the Tree of Life, but in the front it's also got, where are we? There's also got Lamb, who's an extraterrestrial. So there is this extraterrestrial link with all the
Who
societies.
you have behind you there?
One on the wall behind me, that's right.
Who is he? What's his significance? He looks like a big grey.
Mr.
But he-
Crowley's superimposed his face onto him, unfortunately, hasn't he, really?
Yes, yes, to a certain extent. But he's one of the he's presumably one of the leading extraterrestrials who passes knowledge down to the human race for whatever ends.
What did Madame Blavatsky have in connection with Hitler? Didn't the whole Hitler movement and the Second World War and all that?
Entirely different. I mean, they're separate entities, but there's no doubt that the Nazis and the SS were into ritual magic.
Doesn't this bring us into the Fourth Reich and the New World Order again?
Again, it does. Yes, it does. I mean,
so there seems to be a recurrent.
There's some interesting links
with
the UFO concept and the secret flying craft that the Nazis had in the last war.
Do you think they were real?
I think they were real. Yeah. I mean, I've seen lots of documentation and photographs of these things that actually flew. Now, there's an interesting
anti-gravity craft. That's man-made anti-gravity craft.
Man-made anti-gravity craft.
So
discs, flying discs.
They had a connection with the Greys.
I don't know. I mean, that's a possibility. It's a possibility. Or maybe the fact that they were working on discs themselves made them a focus for the Greys. The Greys came along and said, "Hey, you know, you're working on stuff that we've already got anyway. Perhaps we can help you. We can strike a deal."
was able to manifest these things. Madame Blavatsky and her
had contact with them. So there is this extraterrestrial link with these groups.
Extra-dimensional,
wherever,
which are contactable by some form of ritual magic.
That's right. That's right. Sure.
So you're able to pick up on your radio receivers certain pulsing waveforms.
That's right. That's right.
For mind control. Do you think that that's happening a great deal here? Do you think there's a?
I tend to think so. Yeah, I think it's logical. It's been experimented
what sort of frequencies
for years.
Do you think we're talking about?
We're talking about ELF frequencies and VLF frequencies. We're talking about, for instance, the thing called woodpecker. The signal. There's this signal emanating from it's supposed to be emanating from somewhere in the USSR, but it could be. I mean, the thing could be underground, but it's transmitting millions of watts. This thing. It's sitting at the moment. I mean, I can demonstrate this if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no problem. Let's turn on the. Let's just punch in the frequency. There it is. Now that's woodpecker. That's sitting at 100 kilohertz. It used to be all over the shortwave band. Now this is just below the range of the domestic radio receiver, which stops at 150 kilohertz. This is sitting at 100. Now this is transmitting millions of watts. That's a very strong signal. I mean, if you look at the signal strength meter on that receiver, and I'm using a very simple aerial. Now, anything with the correct resonating structure is going to be vibrating like mad with that signal. And looking at the thing on an oscilloscope, I haven't got one set up here, but the basic carrier wave of that 100 kilohertz, superimposed on it are little peaks of about 7 cycles, which is alpha, around about alpha. So there's this basic 100 kilohertz carrier wave that's carrying something else, and it's all over the place, you know. You can hear the signal strength.
So do you think we have a power base of people who are somehow controlling us?
I'm convinced. Yes, I think that's right. I mean, you know, I mean, human nature is that there are followers and leaders, and there are going to be leaders that climb right to the top and manipulate everything, manipulate the masses. The masses are not really interested, they're not really worried about being manipulated. They're quite happy with their football and their beer and their cigarettes and watching EastEnders and Coronation Street, and that's it. They're all placebos. That's what they're quite happy with, and they're easily dominated, very easily dominated. I think it is a worry, because it's obviously making people do things which they don't want to do, or they wouldn't normally do. It's changing behaviour patterns. It can change behaviour patterns of whole countries. We're talking about millions of people. Sure, there are lots of projects. You know, the trouble with these not specifically. No, I can't, because I think there are lots of when these projects become known, everybody knows about HAARP and Majestic and everything else, and it's bandied around. It's on the internet and it's written about in books. Then those projects become figureheads, red herrings. And the real projects are not known. We don't know the names of the real projects. I mean, you know, heaven knows what those projects are. And when those names are leaked out, then they would be closed down and become red herrings. and new ones will be formed, but they will always remain secret, just beyond range.
Do you think you've had any personal contact
Yeah.
with that?
Yes, I do. I do actually. I think I've
Do you think that's what's happening to a lot of other people?
sure, but I think it's the way that I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think any contact that I've ever had, with aliens or extraterrestrials or interdimensional creatures, whatever, has enhanced my awareness and enhanced my wisdom and enhanced my life, because I see things differently. I'm aware. I can.
Such as, can you illuminate on that? Pardon the phrase.
I can see both sides of things, if you like. I can assess people. I can look behind facades. I can change the laws of causality to a certain extent. I can do things along those lines.
You can compress time.
That's
that
right.
sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, it's enhanced my creativity. I can write far better than I ever could. There seem to have been circuits in my brain that have been opened.
So you don't think the abduction or the contact phenomenon is necessarily a negative thing?
No, I don't. I don't think it is. No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is negative. I don't think it's. No, I don't.
But do you think there are certain government things which are going on? Which
I think
might be negative?
I mean, obviously, the human being is the most savage animal on the face of this earth, and I think that domination, if it's a paramount concept, would be at the cost of millions of people. You see what I mean?
Lisa wants to talk here, but we can't
Lisa,
talk
speak
because
up.
She's off camera.
No, so I just want to ask a question. You know, you're saying the abduction whole thing is not necessarily negative. What do you think about the supposed military abductions that are leading people to believe they've actually been abducted by extraterrestrials?
That's a different
And then
thing.
they
That's something different. I mean, that's what I'm saying about the human being being the most savage animal on the face of the earth. Having lots of motivations, which can be pretty dreadful, for whatever means, for whatever end. You know, I mean, the experiments that are being done to I'm convinced that, you know, the reality of 1984, although that's long since gone, of breeding races of slaves, breeding races of engineers. You see what I mean? Manipulation. I mean, they can do this now. Genetic manipulation.
You alright? Am I alright?
Don't film
You're
me, please. Come on, walk down there.
Fine?
Yes. Sure.
Where is this?
Huh?
Where is this?
Effing. Hot tall. Tall.
What are we doing here?
Well, we're just a load of nutters, really. So, we thought we'd come up here. Now, apparently somebody once saw a vending machine. An alien vending machine.
We're doing with aliens here.
Yes, we believe there might be an alien. Who knows? But it's good fun. I might take a photograph for you. Go past this line, ha ha ha.
knows if those symbols are real.
Why do we have all these symbols here?
I know. Ron?
He's got a bit to go. Is this the entrance?
This would have been the kitchen. God, there's an old grate in there. We'll get that.
What's that about the earring?
His earring he's wearing is a skull with a little snake. A skull on the top of a snake. Most interesting, odd symbol, you know, for an earring.
In what respect?
Well, they're definitely sort of occult leanings or whatever. Esoteric, for want of a better word.
You're not there.
Military style. It's very interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I want to ask him if he's military.
No, but I wouldn't.
He's dressed in military
He's
clothes.
got military clothing on, yeah. I think interesting why the panic. And what's the odds about having the pictures published? Shouldn't make any difference whatsoever.
The odds might be concerned about.
Why? Of what? I'm looking for antennas, but there aren't any. The only thing up on the roof are 2 lightning conductors. But there's no antennas up there, nothing like that. No. It's amazing, isn't it? They're going to restore that up there.
So have you got a car up here? You've got a car up here?
Who on earth are friends of Copied Hall? And what? I mean, it sounds a bit, doesn't it?
Exciting.
How did
What?
he know we were here? Where did he come up from? Unless the other people told him.
Huh?
Maybe the other people told him. We went down the other side.
No, surely not. Isn't that funny? All that, my memory was of a lake.
Him turning up on film.
No. I don't have him on. I don't have him turning up on film.
Do you have him on film?
I do. Yeah. Where are I from?
Smoking like
Which
this.
machine? The vending machine.
The vending machine with the pot noodles and chocolate bars in it.
That must have been in the 70s that happened. And it was a fairly local UFO group who held a Ouija board session underground in the basement. And according to the chap, he said exactly at midnight, it said something about, on the Ouija board it said something about get out or something, and then at midnight this vending machine appeared.
I mean, this is serious.
Yeah. No, I'm not conning it. This is what I told them.
That's what made me come up here in
Nicky.
the first place.
Yeah. And they all got out, ran out, clambered out as best as they could. And one chap was found at the gates making crosses out of two bits of wood, foaming at the mouth and screaming in a panic, and they took him off and he had a nervous breakdown. That's all I heard.
And the last time that you were here, what's her name decided to run off in a panic and
No, what
Grace.
happened was we were around in the stables. We'd actually gone right round, and for some reason he didn't cotton on to the fact that we were there that time, because we spent quite some time there and actually went through the little tunnel in the bit that he says is just the causeway, which you didn't get a chance to see, but I've taken photographs of it. When I get them developed you can see them. And we went round to the stables, and just as we sort of kind of passed the line of being off the footpath and in the stables, we heard this like grating noise, like ding, 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 like metal on metal, but it was like rhythmic, you know. Ding, 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 ding. So I don't know if it was some kind of an alarm. But then after that...
It could be alarmed. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be difficult, would it? I mean,
And then after that, Grace just started getting a bit nervous. And we headed back, and we got back to the car, and she'd had a dictaphone. And I said, did you catch the noise on the dictaphone? She tried to play it, and the whole thing had completely buggered up. The dictaphone wasn't working, there was nothing on the tape.
maybe they take you around and shoot
Like
you.
that tree, there's something wrong about that tree.
Yeah, there is, isn't there?
It's poisoned by something. And the other tree out there is poisoned by something as well.
it seems to be mutated, doesn't it? It's not growing normally. It's not.
Yeah, well, it's diseased, I suppose, but that's a symptom of something hostile.
I like that. Looks like a grey, look, doesn't it? It looks like a grey.
Yeah.
I'll keep that. I'm gonna put that on a little stand. It's almost a grey, look.
Harwell and other places.
Oh yes, my name is John Hardwick, and
You are
I'm a patent attorney, an engineer, trademark agent, a UK patent agent. I have various qualifications in chemistry and other things, and physics. However, now, as working as a patent attorney, I went to Harwell because the firm I worked for, Parabla, had a little office in Harwell in the hope of attracting more clients. And we didn't get any more clients, of course, because the first thing you notice, and this may be a function of Oxfordshire as a place, nobody seemed to speak to anybody else, except to ask bizarre questions like, "Are you all right?" and things like this, which is hardly business patter. And the other thing that struck me was that Harwell, we were on the business side as opposed to the research side, had many strange qualities. The first thing, it might be a sign of the isolation of the individual, was that it seemed to be likely something from the set of The Prisoner. You would come out at lunchtime or some other time and find people standing around in proximity with each other, but looking in opposite directions and paying no attention to each other. And I suppose phoning was an activity. I'm not quite sure. I never could see what they were doing, but it was most peculiar.
What was the trigger to make you think it was most peculiar?
Just the entire behaviour. The entire behaviour that I saw was not what I'm used to anywhere else in Britain anyway, or the USA. It was just strange. And the other thing, another thing that seemed to be very strange, they were ever digging sewers. Now there were lots of sewers, and there were bigger and better sewers, and it may have been that Nirac, which was just next door, required sewers, but I thought you didn't drain stuff away very much if it was radioactive. So that raises a question. I once came upon a sewer which was open, so I looked down it, and it went down about 15 feet and seemed to be a very large affair. And as everywhere in Harwell, there was somebody in attendance who looked up and said, "All right, mate, have you seen enough?" And I thought, well, very good. That sounds just like Harwell.
Do you think there was something classified going on down there?
Something unusual, anyway. They were not prepared to classify it, but you certainly weren't going to get a look. Let's put it that way.
What about the black energies and the strange light?
Well, the one thing that did strike me was that there seemed to be some kind of zap array in a particular position around the local shops. Whenever you walked through that point, you got a kind of mental shock, and that was pointing from Nirac towards the local shops. Local shops are quite weird. Even on a cool day, you could find sides of shops radiating heat, which I found very strange, because they were just wooden buildings.
In what sort of way? I mean, there was a much brighter light than normal, or
well, the light,
sizes of
the light.
rooms?
First of all, the light was quite blinding. But I cannot. I'm not sure if it was or not, because as soon as you go away, you reacclimatize. But I think
so
it
what
was.
do you mean exactly? What made you notice this? That the light. In the area was
because
different?
I'm quite light sensitive, and it seemed to be far too bright. But there didn't seem to be any extra source.
Exactly where did this happen? It was much brighter. In the buildings, inside, or
Looking out the windows, there's a lot of light.
so what strangeness exactly triggered that?
Well, I'm blinded by the light, and it's not normal for me to be blinded by the light.
So what conclusions, or what does one suspect?
Well,
about that?
I suspect that it's just much brighter, but there's no explanation why. Also, there seem to be sources of heat, and even with NIRAC, we don't get sources of heat. We all know how to, well, maybe we don't, but we should all know how to deal with radioactive waste, which is what NIRAC does.
Did you notice black energies going into the ground?
Well,
or
I
light
did
forms?
notice little things running around out of the corner of my eye.
What would you describe?
Well, they
them?
were about so long, and they weren't rats, because I recognise rats. I've got rats near where I live, and these things would just scuttle along and dive down drains and hatches, which they were just black things, really. So
Of no precise form.
yeah, no, they were just blurs, and they were, I must say, always at the ground level. But I'm not quite sure what they are, because I've never got a proper look at them.
So what about the thing that I think we mentioned earlier about this sort of a Stepford Wives, people behaving like
Well,
robots?
this is the set of The Prisoner again. They're just like that. They march around without any apparent social connection with one another.
So are these the civilians?
They are civilians.
People on the base.
I'm not sure. Certainly the ones that stand around looking this way and that way seem to come from the base.
How far were you in the base? How closely?
We were about 200 or 300 meters from the base perimeter, where the free access stopped. So,
And did you become involved with any particular patents or anything?
no, it was terribly dull, I must confess.
And how long were you there for?
Oh, about 2 years off and on. So, if you don't have an office in Harwell, you'll probably get chucked out fast and everything. So, if you can somehow arrange an opportunity to stay in Harwell, let's say for a week. Yeah, just go in at 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at 5. You will find everything I have said was true. Now, most of these observations are in the summer, because in the winter people don't come outside to stand around and look in different directions and so on. But you will find that the little shops and little newsagents down at the local shopping area, it's quite a small shopping area, does radiate heat from its wall facing the road, which is quite peculiar.
What, do you think it's an artificial body of some description?
I cannot say what it could be, but you don't get heat like that being chucked out from a wall, and it's right over one of these drains, which you can't look into, of course, without somebody saying how you're looking in at the right.
So what conclusion, how do you conclude that Harwell is involved with communication with some alien facility?
Well, because the antenna's pointing in entirely the wrong direction. It's a great big dish antenna. You don't need it for the radio sound activities which are conducted at Harwell.
That's radio sound is associated with
you basically
orgone energy.
No. It's
weather.
No, it's associated with the minimum reflection frequencies of the various layers in the ionosphere, and you just need a small vertical antenna to do that. But this antenna never moves, so I'm just giving you my own observations.
Yeah.
And I think it's a weird, strange place.
Were you spied on?
Not that I know of. Well, apart from this strange mental ray which would impinge upon you if you walk around the back. And it did.
The back of where?
The news agents. I used to go and get sound over the magazines.
What do you mean there was a mental ray?
You would walk past a particular point, and you would get only at that point you would get a mental surge which would make you feel queasy and whatever for several hours afterwards.
As a radio ham and as a person very experienced in radio frequencies, do you have any conclusions or anything that you could think about what would do that?
If it was, first of all, I had a very narrow beam, so it would have to be at many, many gigahertz, or even tens or hundreds of gigahertz. So it wouldn't be a laser, it would be of a lesser frequency than a laser. But quite what it was doing there at all, I don't know. Because
were you able to identify its potential antenna?
No. It seemed to originate in Iraq, but who knows, it may have originated.
Do you think it was some kind of boundary fence dealing with?
Well, I never thought of that, but it might have been. Yeah. Oh, it's a general strangeness and aloofness of the people there. They were almost like, as I said, the characters from the set of The Prisoner. It may just be that people from Oxfordshire, South Oxfordshire, are weird and unsociable and bizarre, but I don't believe that for a minute. I really don't. I've been to other places in South Oxfordshire, and they're not like that.
So what conclusions would you have as to the...
Well, there's some...
what's the single most strangest thing, which, why we're having this conversation?
Well, one of the strangest things is they've got a big antenna on top of Harwell, well, on a high level on Harwell, a parabolic antenna, which presumably points at something, but after, it never moves, or at least it doesn't appear to move, but after a long time of looking, and trying to figure out where it was pointed at, it was something in outer space. It was nothing to do with a geostationary satellite or anything like that. Therefore, I just wondered what it was for, and I cannot think of anything. But it must be for something, because the amount of money they spent on that was quite vast.
So what is your gut conclusion to your experience? My
gut conclusion is that there is some communication between what used to be the earthly government and the aliens, and I sometimes wonder if there might not be more control by the aliens than anything else. I point to the EU as an example, because there seems to be an embedded agenda which cannot be avoided. Why? It seems wrong.
And do you think, therefore, the aliens have taken control of our government by logical extension?
It could be. However, I don't think the aliens, anything that is of a homomorphic, must be connected with us somehow. And they are either I think they're time travelers of some kind. They have to be.
So you think they're human beings from the future?
Well, from elsewhere.
From elsewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if the future, past, or present. I mean, we may have somehow been concocted, unknown to ourselves, at an earlier date, in parallel with these other creatures. However, I do think there's a deal of time travel going on.
And what do you consider this connection to the EU and the things that are going on here?
It's just a simple thing that human beings are not naturally agreeable, but you seem to have mind control of the leaders of the EU, which is quite dangerous.
Any final conclusions?
I think we may have lost control of ourselves.
And on what basis do you make that conclusion?
Because there's too many people apparently thinking the same thing. I've never seen it through history, any groups thinking the same thing.
So do you think we have a dangerous, out-of-control situation, if that's a leading question?
I think there's an attempt to keep things non-violent, if possible, but I think it's being imposed upon us. Seriously.
So any advice for anybody to deal with that situation?
You should dare to disagree and think about things. This green business seems to me to be a bit out of control, as is the current issue is the constitution of the EU. The EU is a treaty. It's not a country. But however, everybody thinks it's a country.
Any final last words?
Yes. Be very, very, very careful. And watch out for the surveillance that's going on within Europe. If you think Britain is bad, there are 20,000 traffic cameras around The Hague. I was told by a taxi driver. Anyway, whether it's 20,000 or whatever the number is, it's very large.
What do you think the logical extension of all the surveillance, the DNA mapping and tracking by cell phone and RFID chip, where do you think that's logically leading?
It's leading to something much worse than 1984. We won't be able to breathe or move.
Do you think there's an extra species amongst us that we need to keep track of, or are we the species that are being tracked by the others?
I think, to be honest, we are being changed somehow. And for example, I was born very much brighter than any of my relatives, and as you were too. And this such change is unlikely. Why? Because the mass of people who copulate and breed are the dimmest ones because they don't have any control over their emotion. However, they're still getting brighter, so I don't understand that. Contrary.
Love is a stuff inside teddy bear.
Yeah, love is stuffed inside. This is Bryant the teddy bear. He's one of my personalities that I found when I found out I was a multiple personality due to mind control from the government. And he is the personality that protects the children from danger. So he's this mean, scruffy bear that protects the children from danger. And so I got a representation of him, and I bought this teddy bear in Canada.
Wonderful.
And he's got meditation beads on? Yes. He's my protector. I was under military mind control when I was about 2 to 12 years old. And I think they dropped my program about 12, but then they tried to get me to self-destruct about 18 years old.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah, they tried to get me to be a serial killer.
Explain that again.
They tried to make me a serial killer. For multiple years during that age between 18 and 21, I was fantasizing about being a serial killer, and I think that was their mind control, trying to get me to kill myself, to get myself in trouble.
Right.
So,
that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
In other words, because they couldn't use you, they wanted to terminate you.
Yes, yeah, they wanted to terminate me after that, and then since I've remembered this past year, I'm 40 now. This last year I started to actually remember stuff. They also tried to get me to buy a gun. I kept hearing voices.
Are you 40? You look so much younger than that.
Yeah. They kept getting.
I would have said 25.
No, I would have said maybe 35, but not 40.
It's my family lineage.
I would think most people like you in your early 30s.
So
40 is amazing.
Why do you think you were chosen?
For the mind control, I think it just happenstance because my dad was in the Navy. He had top secret clearance because he he was on nuclear submarines, and I think I just happened to be available. And then I also think that they probably found out that I was an abductee.
Right. So they must have found out you were an abductee before you returned.
Right, and then they wanted to find out, yeah, they found out I was an abductee. They wanted to find out what the aliens were doing with me.
What type of aliens?
Nothing anybody else has seen. These are very different. I have not seen this alien in anybody else's pictures or anything like this. It's unusual. It does have a gray-like tone of skin, but it's more like a dolphin skin. They have the big eyes, but they have lids on their eyes, so all you see is a slit. And they have more of a muzzle, like a chimpanzee muzzle on them. They're very different, and they only have 2 fingers and 1 thumb.
Well, that sounds like that. Who was it? Someone, one of the speakers showed some pictures of like the long-nosed greys, and they have like a muzzle.
Not like that. It's like a chimpanzee muzzle. It's not that long.
Okay.
It's just about an inch off.
Oh, okay.
It looks just like a gorilla or something. But
I've seen pictures of that. In fact, there's who is it? There's an abductee that's got pictures. It's like a chimp as far as it's got that kind of half circle, you know, that thing like a chimp, and they have an eyelid.
They have an eyelid?
Yeah.
I'd like to see the pictures, but this one had a 4-quartered skull, and you know how greys, they have big heads? This one's even bigger in comparison to the rest of its body. It's huge, and it's definitely 4-quartered. You can tell that it's got 4 lobes in its brain. The skull indents this way and this way. And so it's definitely
What was involved with the mind control? What sort of things were done? Can you remember?
They were trying to make me a psychic warrior. In other words, I was capable of moving equipment such as tanks with my mind from 5 miles away. I was capable of controlling somebody's mind that was a threat to me and make them not a threat to me. I was capable of moving objects at long distances, things like that. Those
so really,
just
run-of-the-mill, just move a tank 5 miles stuff?
Yeah, run-of-the-mill psychic warrior.
Yeah. So really, just not really much, really.
I don't know how much I was actually used. I do have some flashback memories of killing a few people.
So sort of Manchurian Candidate style?
Yeah, but psychic type. Yeah, using psychic powers to do it.
What, do you believe the program was stopped? Do you know the name of the program?
I think I was a test subject just to see what they could do with me. I don't think I was ever used in the long run, because what happened was when I was 11 years old, I was sent to a boarding school because I had behavior problems. I wonder why.
I wonder why, yeah.
Yeah, and then, so when they sent me to this boarding school, I think what happened was the CIA was working through this boarding school.
It was a school for this.
And they were mind controlling people. There were several times that we took field trips out of that school that I don't remember what we did on the field trip, but I remember the trip out and the trip back. And I never remembered what we did on the field trip.
Do you know the name of the school?
Devro. There's 6 of them. 6 schools called Devro, and one was in Georgia. And I found out
you were in Georgia.
Can you spell that?
And it was confirmed by another mind control victim that she was in the same area, and she said she remembers me being at the mind control site being controlled.
What state?
Georgia. Yeah, it's Cobb County, Georgia is where Devro is. Kennesaw, Cobb County, it's right on the
I'll have to talk to Lori, the lady here that I've been talking to. I think you really should.
Yeah.
She's really cool and down to earth. I think she'd want to talk to you.
UFOs and experiences, and you want the story about Porton Down, 1977, November. Okay, the story begins that what happened prior to that event was the fact that police driving just past Stonehenge were on top of a rise, and they saw a light going down into a field, and they couldn't make it out because they stopped and there was no noise. Well, having read this in the papers, you see, teaching people to drive around Salisbury one night, we were all talking about this, and as we came down a hill at Bishopsdown in Salisbury, you look right through the valley into Porton Down, and it is one of those lovely moonless nights in November, and the stars were shining great, and lo and behold, high up, very bright light, it came down, more or less straight down, came below the horizon, and it went over the ground like that. You could see it following the contours of the ground below the far horizon. Now, Porton Down was lit up like a Christmas tree, and there was a building and you could see all the individual floors, and this object came out of the sky below the horizon, hopped along the ground very quick, and as it went to the building it slowed down and it went out as it got right up to it. And of course I said, well, did you see that? And the girl driving said, yeah, I saw it, and the person in the back also saw it following the ground as well. So that's 3 people in the car that witnessed this object.
What was the object like?
Just a very bright, like star type object. That's it. Just a very bright light. In other words,
a sphere, a circle?
No, just a very bright light. What it put me in mind of thinking about it now is when you see the